Okay, so for today we're going to finish all chapter 3. What's left is only 3.4 and 3.5. So 3.4 has 4 questions, and then 3.5 has somehow 4 or 5 questions, something like that. Okay. So if your quiz 3 will be up until this implicit exercise 3.4. Okay, let's look into question number 1 first. So you have 3x squared plus 5y squared plus 4z squared and everything to the power of 3 over 2 equals to 7. Okay, and the question asks to find del z, del x, and del z, del y. Okay, so this is implicit function. How do I know it is implicit? Okay, basically when you want to differentiate the upper variable with respect to the lower variable, okay, the upper variable must be in terms of z equals to fxy only. However, in this question, it is not equals to z equals to fxy. Your z is implicitly exists in the function. Okay, so you have 4z squared there. Okay, so when you talk about implicit, the 4z squared you have to differentiate as well. Okay, so let's say we find del z del x, and then we use the first method first. Okay, to find the implicit, there's 2 methods. Okay, the first one is you differentiate directly, implicitly. The second one is you differentiate using formula. Okay, so I want to differentiate with respect to x. I have 3 types of variable here. The first one, x, is you want to differentiate with respect to. And then the z is the implicit function, implicit variable. And then the y is constant. Okay, so you have to bear in mind all these 3 types of variable in the implicit function. Okay, using first method, x kita nak beza, so differentiate 3x squared will be 6x plus differentiate y is constant right now, so differentiate constant dapatlah kosong plus, before anything actually you have to differentiate the power because there's a power 3 over 2 kan, kat luar sekali there's a power of the function, so you have to differentiate the power. So differentiate the power 3 over 2, and then whatever in the bracket just write down. Okay, so 3 over 2 minus 1 will be 1 over 2. Okay, and then multiply, then you differentiate the bracket. Okay, with respect to x. So 6x plus 0 plus, okay, this is the implicit. So when you differentiate 4z squared, you can dapat 8z. But then the implicit things is you have to multiply with the differentiation, which is this, del z del x. Okay, and then equals to 0. Okay, because differentiate 7 will be 0. So now you,
Doktor,
yeah?
untuk saya terlepas dengar untuk 1 over 2 power of 1 over 2 tu. Itu,
Kenapa jadi 1 over 2? Because dia power kan, power dia, kalau power katalah ada x to the power of n, so you want to differentiate the x to the power of n tu turun bawah, and then the power will be minus 1. So 3 over 2 minus 1 will be 1 over 2 lah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Alright, now this del z del x, because the question has to find del z del x, so del z del x, you have to make it as a subject. So everything else you bring to left hand side lah. Okay. So mula-mula kita bawa yang ni semua. Sebab ni hasil darab kan. Bawa ni ke sebelah dia akan jadi kosong. Okay, sebab dia darab kosong. Kalau saya tak langkau ni dia akan jadi macam ni lah sebenarnya. 6x plus, sorry katalah saya tak nak langkau, nanti awak keliru. Equals to 0. Bawa ke sebelah dulu. And then kita jadikan yang ini saja. Negative 6x over xz. So this is your final answer for del z del x. Okay, let's look into the second method. Second method is rather easier than the first one. Okay, second method use a formula. Okay, the formula is negative fx over fz. Okay, actually the formulas are not given. Okay, but it is very easy to remember. Okay, the variable that you want to differentiate dia akan jadi ke atas, and then the variable that is implicit it will be uh, down below. Okay. Okay, so now before you differentiate f with respect to x and f with respect to z, you have to find f. What if f? F is your function in which you make your function equals to 0. So, nak jadikan f kat sini senang je lah, bawa 7 ke sebelah. You just bring your 7 to left hand side. Then, it will be f equals to 3x squared plus 5y squared plus 4z squared. 3 over 2 minus 7. Then, it will be equals to 0. Okay, that's the first step. Okay, ini sebab dia constant, so mungkin bila awak tak buat, dia tak ada effect sangat. Okay, but then if it's not constant, there's another variable on the right hand side and you didn't do like this, then your answer will be totally wrong. Okay. Okay, so we want to find fx. When you want to find fx, when you use the second method, okay, you don't have to look into implicit. There's no implicit in here. Okay, what you have is only a variable that you want to differentiate and constant. So if you want to differentiate with respect to x, then again y and z is constant. Okay, so sekali lagi we have to differentiate the power first because it is the outer functions. And then multiply, differentiate whatever in the bracket with respect to x, we'll have 6x. 5y squared will be 0, 4z squared also will be 0. Okay, remember if you use this method, then z is constant. So differentiate constant will be 0. And then fz also 3 over 2, 3x squared plus 5y squared plus 4z squared, 1 over 2. And then differentiate the bracket, whatever in the bracket with respect to z. Now the x and y are constant. So 0 plus another 0 plus x. Okay. So your answer, just use this formula. Don't forget the negative. Students often forget the negative. So fx will be 3 over 2, 1 over 2, 6x over 3 over 2, whatever in the bracket, 1 over 2, xz. Okay, so this one and this one actually you can cut out. So what's left is negative 6x over xz. Okay, which is the same as if you use the first method. Okay, so basically the second method is rather easier because you don't have to consider the implicit function. Everything is only constant or variable that you want to differentiate. Okay, you may try for del z del y.
Doktor,
Yeah.
yang doktor tulis, doktor potong tu kan 3/2 kurungan yang lain tu 3x kuasa 2 tambah 5y.
Betul. 3x kuasa 2 tambah 5y tambah 4z kuasa 2 tu sebab tak cukup ruang, saya buat macam tu je lah. Penting awak faham Okay, any other questions? Kita ada, kita pergi soalan nombor 2. This is ln. Okay, now let us find del z del y. Find del z del y. We have ln 4y squared minus 4y squared minus 3x plus 2z to the power of 3, is it? Okay, and then equals to 5x. Again, I will show you both ways. Okay, if I want to differentiate with respect del z del y, then z implicit. Okay. Then the y is want to differentiate respect to, so we have to bear in mind that y is the things, and then x is constant. Okay, so using the first method, first of all we have to differentiate the ln, because the ln is the outer function kan. Before we want to differentiate either x or y or z, okay, there's a ln there, so differentiate ln apa-apa. Differentiate ln will be 1 over, okay, 1 over. So whatever in the bracket tu letak kat bawah ni. Okay, and then you multiply, you differentiate the bracket with respect to y. Okay, with respect to y. So 4y squared will be xy minus x is constant, so 0 plus, okay, z is implicit. So implicit pun kena bezakan juga. 6z kuasa 2, but then every time you differentiate the implicit, you will have to multiply del z del y or del z del x, depends on the questions lah. Now we want to differentiate respect to y, so kena darab del z del y. Kalau macam tadi nak differentiate respect to x, then you have to multiply with del z del x, okay? And then equals to differentiate 5x will be 0 because x is constant. Okay, so this one lah yang you kena bawa ke sebelah. Okay, so first of all, you will have xy plus 6z squared del z del y equals to 0. Okay, equals to 0 because this one is a multiplication. Okay, when you bring it, the 1 over to your right hand side, it will be equals to 0 lah, because 0 divided by that thing will be 0. So del z del y will be equals to negative xy over 6z squared. Okay, let's look into the second method. Okay, so when I want to differentiate z respect to y means negative fy over fz. Okay, so to find fy means x and z are constants. So directly lah. Okay, remember before anything, you have to make sure your function is in terms of f equals to 0. So f equals to ln 4y squared minus 3x plus 2z to the power of 3 minus 5x. Okay, will be equals to 0. So again, before you differentiate y, you have to differentiate the ln, which will have 4y squared minus 3x plus z to the power of 3. Okay, and then multiply, differentiate y, we have xy, and everything else is constant. So 3x is 0, 2z to the power of 3 is 0, 5x also 0. Okay, and then for fz, okay, so when you want to differentiate respect to z, x and y are not constant. Okay, so the 4y squared is 0, the 3x is 0, the 2z to the power of 3 will be 6z to the power of 2. The minus 5x also 0. Then just substitute into the formula, which is negative, don't forget. Fy is semua ni lah, 1 over 4y squared minus 3x plus 2z to the power of 3 times xy. So saya tulis terus kat sini xy ni kat atas divided by 6z to the power of 2 4y squared minus 3x plus 2z to the power of 3. So actually this one and this one you can cancel out, okay, because it's the same terms. So what's left is xy over 6z squared. Okay, which should be similar when using first method. Okay, so that is basically the implicit. What's more is you have to know how to differentiate law, maybe just your skills of differentiation. Okay, I think for implicit you just use the formula, it's enough for you. If you cannot think of three types of variables. Okay, so you just use the formula. Formula is easier. Biasa memang student pun dia akan opt untuk formula. Okay, you may try for del z del x for question number 2. Now let's look into question number 3. Okay, x squared plus z cos xyz equals to 3. Okay, so in this part you have to use product rule. Okay, somehow you have to use product rule lah. Okay, now tadi kita buat dah del z del x, del z del y, ni kita balik pada del z del x pula First method. Okay, in which we want to find del z del x. Okay, so z implicit, x is the one we want to differentiate respect to. Okay, so x squared will be 2x plus. Okay, so in this part we have to use product rule. Why is it? Because we want to differentiate respect to z respect to x, right? And then there's z here. Okay, and then there's also xz here. Okay, so first let's say u equals to z, and then v equals to u equals to z, and v equals to cos xyz. Okay, so for product rule, this is u v prime plus v u prime. Okay, now let's find ux, which is u to differentiate respect to x, since we are going to find del z del x. So ux will be del z del x. Okay, not 1, not 0, because z is implicit, not constant. So whenever you want to differentiate z, you have to differentiate as it is, multiply the differentiation. Okay, so bezakan z ni dapat 1, 1 multiply dengan del z del x, dapatlah del z del x juga. Okay, and then v respect to x, saya tak cukup ruang, tak saya buat ke bawah. V respect to x will be, before you differentiate xyz, the bracket, you have to differentiate cos, which differentiate cos apa-apa? Negative sine xyz multiply with differentiation of the bracket. Okay, so sekarang ni, if you look into the bracket, you also have to use product rule. Kenapa? Dia product rule lagi ni. Why is it? Is anybody can answer me? Kenapa kita kena product rule lagi kat dalam tu? Sedangkan kita nak bezakan terhadap x. Sebab dia ada z. This one is you want to differentiate respect to, but then this one is implicit. Implicit also you have to differentiate. Okay, so you have two variables that you want to differentiate, and these two variables are a multiplication. Okay, a multiplication, a product of two variables kan. So you have to use product rule. Okay. So sekali lagi, katalah product rule yang kedua ni kita jadikan, saya guna yang merah u equals to xy, v equals to z. Because y is constant, okay, you can bring y to x or you can bring y to z. Dia tak kisahlah. Kalau you nak bawa y ke sini pun boleh, you nak bawa y ke x pun boleh. Okay, because it is only constant. But then you cannot bring both sides lah, only one Setelah saya letak xy. Okay, so ux here will be y, and vx here will be del z del x. Okay, so what's the answer for this product rule? The vx will be negative sin xyz times with, macam tak cukup ruang pula. Okay, u v prime xy del z del x plus vu prime plus zy. Okay, so this whole thing untuk Z ni sahaja dia akan jadi U V prime Z times negative sin XYZ times XY del Z del X plus ZY UV prime plus VU prime, which is cos XYZ del Z del X. And then equals to 0. Okay, differentiate 3 will be 0. Okay, so how to solve for this one? You have del Z del X here and del Z del X also here. So you have to combine these two del Z del X. Okay, before anything, so actually this one, you boleh darab. Ni semua boleh darab. Kenapa? Sebab dia tambah kan? Okay. Dia akan jadi 2x plus x negatif kan ni plus negatif xyz sin xyz del z del x minus yz squared sin xyz plus cos xyz del z del x equals to 0. Dah nampak macam ni, baru nampak ni sikit lah. Then the del z del x is cos xyz minus xyz sin xyz. Okay, how do I get this one? I just factorize this and this one. Okay, faktorkan sebab ia ada del z del x, keluarkan equals to, and then everything else you just bring to left right hand side. Yz squared sin xyz minus 2x. Ini tolak, bawa sebelah jadi tambah. Yang ini tambah, bawa sebelah jadi tolak. Then I can find already my del z del x, which is everything here you bring to right hand side, it will be division. Multiplication bila bawa ke sebelah jadi division. Okay, dan sebaliknya lah. Over cos xyz minus xyz sin xyz. Okay, so this is an example question in which in a product rule you have another product rule just because another variable is treated as implicit. Okay, maybe you confused just now. Let's say I have xz, okay, a function of xz. Okay, and for this xz, when you want to find del z del y, okay, you don't have to use product rule. Why? Because x is constant. But then when you want to find del z del x, you have to use product rule. Why? Because x is the one you want to differentiate and then z is implicit. Also you want to differentiate. Then you have to use product rule. Faham beza antara dua ni? Sama lah juga kalau awak ada yz, then bila cari del z del y yang kena guna product rule. Sebab y dengan z tu dia adalah multiplication. Okay, now let's use the second method for that equation. Equation ni tadi x kuasa 2 tambah z cos xyz. Now, when you want to use second method, you have to make the formula equals to 0. Sorry, make the equation equals to 0. Minus 3 equals to 0. So just bring the 3 to left hand side. Okay, tadi kita cari apa del z del x. So del z del x adalah fx and fz. So fx equals to 2x plus x saja. So z ni constant. So z x is here. This is constant, become constant. So this is to differentiate. Okay, and then x is here, but before you want to differentiate x, you have to differentiate cos. So cos will be negative sign. And then differentiate the x will be yz. Okay, because yz is constant. Minus, differentiate 3 will be 0. So I have 2x minus yz squared sine xyz. And then for the fz, the x is constant, so 2x will be 0 plus, okay, the fz also you have to use product rule. Why? Because you have z here and then another z here. And then it's a two different function. Okay, one function is a polynomial, z to the power of 1. The other function is a trigonometric function, which is cosine. Okay, so you have to use product rule. So, buatlah macam tadi, U sama dengan apa, Z sama dengan, V sama dengan apa. Okay, let's say I just strictly do my product rule here. So, bezakan Z dapat 1, cos XYZ, bezakan cos dapat negative sin XYZ. Darabkan dengan bezakan Z, so XY yang constant, keluarkan XY. Minus 0 equals to 0. Okay, so the del Z del X is equals to negative. Fx is 2x minus 2yz squared sine xyz divided by cos xyz minus xyz sine xyz. So this is the same answer as this one lah. Okay, as this one. This one dia tak ada negatif kan, so tak ada negatif, so dia jadi tolak 2x. Okay, this one dia bila darabkan negatif tu dapatlah jawapan yang sama
Doktor, cuma saya pening sikit dekat product rule untuk XYZ tu je. Yang lain semua okey. Itu saya kena.
So kena tengok balik lah product rule and also the quotient rule lah. Kalau dia hasil bahagi kena buat quotient rule.
Alright doktor, thank you.
Okay, so untuk nombor 4 tu senang sangat, you boleh buat sendiri je Okay, so far if you don't have any question for implicit, let's move to exercise 3.5, which is the final topic in this chapter, Extrema. So there's one question about Extrema in your final. Basically, kalau tengok the past questions pun memang ada Extrema satu soalan. Okay, about 12 to 15 marks lah. So basically, it's very easy as long as you can follow the steps, the steps of how to find the extrema. So extrema ni dia ada either it is a maximum, minimum or saddle point. And sometimes using the second derivative test, it doesn't give you any, the test will fail, okay? So actually there are so many ways to find the extrema, but what I teach here, what will be teach to you in this course is second derivative test. Okay, so in your final, you have to use second derivative test to find the extrema. Okay, kalau guna test-test yang lain tu tidak diterima jawapan akhir saja yang kita akan terima kalau betul. Okay, let's go into the first question. It's rather easiest question juga ni sebab x kuasa 2 bila beza dapat 1 je kan. Okay, first you have to find fx and equal to 0 and then you have to find fy equal to 0 as well. Okay, so fx equals to 0 means you differentiate respect to x, keeping y constant. So you have 2x plus y plus 4 and then 2y 0, 5 also 0 equals to 0. Okay, this is first equation. And then when you want to differentiate respect to y will be x squared will be 0 and then differentiate xy will be x plus 4x also 0, 2y be 2, 5 also 0 equals to 0. This is second equation. And then you have to solve for simultaneous equation. So this is rather easy because the equation number 2, okay, you can directly get the value of x, which is x equals to -2. And then substitute into 1. Then your 1 will be 2, -2 plus y plus 4 equals to 0. Or y equals to -4 plus 4, which is equals to 0. Then this is what we call critical point. The critical point is -2, 0. Okay, whatever extrema, either it is maximum, minimum, or saddle point, will happens in this critical point. Okay, kenapa kita samakan n kosong? Sebab contoh lah you ada macam ni. Okay, let's say you have somehow this curve. Okay, the fx is the first derivative, not only fx, the first derivative is a slope then. Is a slope. Slope is gradient lah atau kecunan. And then when the slope is positive, dia akan naik. When the slope is negative, dia akan turun. And then when the slope is 0, is actually it will be horizontal. Okay, equals to 0. So it happens here lah yang sama yang kosong, sama yang kosong, sama yang kosong sebab kita samakan dengan kosong. Okay, because we want to find this critical point first. Okay, now we are testing this critical point, either it is minimum, maximum, or saddle point. How to test? Just use a second derivative test. Okay, the formula for this second derivative test will be given in your final, which is d equals to fxx times fyy minus fxy squared. Okay. So before you use this formula, you have to find fxx lah. Fxx, fyy dan fxy ni kena cari. Okay, dapat daripada mana? Dapat daripada this one. This is your fx tadi kan. And then this is your fy. So differentiate again with respect to x, you'll get 2. The y differentiate fy with respect to y, you get 0 because fy tak ada y pun. So kosong. And then differentiate xy will be 1. Okay. So masuk dalam formula darab 2 darab kosong tolak 1 kuasa 2. Which is you will get -1. -1 is less than 0. So that's a summary of D. Okay, on either D is greater than 0, D less than 0, or D equals to 0. This summary is not given. You have to memorize lah. Okay, what's given is only the formula for the second derivative test. Okay, so when the case is D greater than 0, there will be two other options, either fxx greater than 0 or fxx less than 0. Now we have D less than 0. So since D equals to -1, which is less than 0, -2, 0. What is -2, 0? -2, 0 is the critical point lah. Is a saddle point. Okay. So saddle point ni dia bukan yang maximum, bukan yang minimum. Okay, it is in between. There will be how to solve for the extrema. Okay, let's look into question number 2. Three y squared minus 2xy plus x squared minus x. Okay, so again, just find fx and then equal to 0. Fx will be -2y plus 2x minus x equals to 0. And then the fy will be 6y minus 2x equals to 0. So this is first equation, this is second equation. Okay, let's say solve simultaneous. Let's say from 2, you have 6y equals to 2x, or x equals to gy. Okay, substitute into 3 into 1, we'll have negative 2y plus 2, 3y minus equals to 0. So 4y minus equals to 0, y equals to 2. Okay, so if y equals to 2, then x equals to 3 times 2, which is 6. So critical point will be xy, so 6, 2. Not yx, must be xy. Or not yet finished. Okay, so second derivative test will be fxx. Fxx is 2, fyy is 6, and fxy is negative 2. Okay, so your d will be 2 times 6 times minus negative 2 squared, which is 12 minus 4, which is 4, which is 8. 8 is greater than 0. So as I mentioned before, if d is greater than 0, you have to look back into fxx. Fxx is 2, which is also greater than 0. So when d greater than 0, fxx also greater than 0, you have a minimum. So it is a minimum at 6, 2. Okay, so the other question will be very much the same. Let me do one final question. Question number 3. 4xy minus x to the power 4 minus y to the power 4. So differentiate fx will be 4y minus 4x to the power 3. Differentiate fy will be 4x minus 4y squared to 0. So this is first equation, this is second equation. So if you look into this equation, it is very much similar. Okay, just difference in terms of the variable kan, yang x jadi y, y jadi x. Okay, so you can choose to start with 1 or start with 2. Okay, let's say you choose from 1. So from 1, y equals to x to the power 3, right? So 3 into 2, you'll have 4x minus 4, x to the power 3, to the power of 3 again, because this is y. So y to the power of 3 equals to 0. So we have 4x minus 4x to the power of 9 equals to 0. This is not x to the power of 6. Dia yang kata ingat tambah. Actually, the x to the power of 3 means x you times 3 times. X to the power of 3 darab lagi 3 kali. So bila darab, dia punya power akan jadi tambah 3 tambah 3 tambah 3, which is of 9 lah. Okay, this is basic in indices. So if you forget about this, so please look into it again. Okay, so for x, 1 minus x to the power of 8 equals to 0. Okay, because 48 dah 4x dah keluar, so tinggal 8x 8 kuasa x saja. X kuasa 8 saja. Okay. So this one will be 4x equals to 0 or x equals to 0, and another one will be 1 minus x to the power of 8 equals to 0, or x to the power of 8 equals to 1, or x equals to plus minus 1. Okay, why do you have plus minus 1? Because the power here is even power. Okay, when you find the root of even power, you have to put plus minus. Okay, but then for odd power, dia tak adalah plus minus. It will be only plus or only minus, depends on the value. Okay, so students biasa tertinggal yang ni, so dia akan jadi 2 critical point saja. Okay, however in this question, actually it has 3 critical point, which is x equals to 0, x equals to 1, and x equals to negative 1. Okay, tapi selalu student terlupa yang plus minus tu, so dia ada 2 je. And then actually, if you miss 1 critical point gives you minimum 3 marks. Paling kurang 3 markah. Kalau kurang 1 critical point, kuranglah 3 markah tu dah. Okay. Okay, and then you have to find y. So y is what? Y is x to the power of 3, so y will be equals to 0 as well. Okay, this is the first critical point, and then y equals to 1, second critical point, and then y equals to -1, which is the third critical point. So I have 0, 0, 1, 1, and -1, -1. Okay, now let's find fxx. fxx is differentiate x with respect to x again, so we have -12x to the power of 2. And then fyy is to differentiate y with respect to y again, then you have -12y to the power of 2. And then fxy is 4. Okay, so your d will be -12x squared times -12y squared minus 4 to the power of 2, which is 144x squared y squared minus 16. Okay, so in this question, you have to find the value of x, and the value of d depends on the value of x and y. Okay, so refer back to your critical point. So if 0, 0 means d 0, 0. So x kosong, y kosong. So masukkanlah, dapatkan kosong kosong, dapat -16, which is less than 0. So less than 0 means what? Saddle point. Okay, and then when it is 1, 1, then you have d 1, 1 again, x equals to 1, y equals to 1, so you have 144. 144 minus 16, you'll get 128, which is greater than 0. However, whenever it's greater than 0, you have to look back into your fxx. fxx sama dengan -12x squared. Okay, so bila masukkan 1, 1, you akan dapat -12, which is less than 0. Okay, so kalau 1 tu lebih besar, 1 lebih kecil, it is a maximum. Okay, and then for -1 as well. So d -1 is 128 also, which is greater than 0. Then the fxx is -12x. Yang ini sepatutnya kita masukkanlah nilai, nanti aku keliru pula. 1 kuasa 2. Okay, yang ini -1 kuasa 2. Tapi negatif kuasa 2 dapat positif, so still darab dapat negatif, so maksimum juga. So we may try for question 5 and 4 and 5. 4 and 5 boleh buat sendiri, saya tak masalah dah tu. Okay, so that's it. We have finished chapter 3 altogether.